So, have you ever really thought about it? Are there some rules that are so important, so fundamental, that they should never, ever be changed? I mean, not even by a government that we, the people, elected? Well, today, we're diving into an absolutely monumental clash in India. It's a story about a legal battle that pitted the immense power of a government against the most basic rights of its citizens.
Okay, so at the heart of this entire story is this huge, fundamental conflict. On one side, you've got Parliament's power, their authority to literally change the Constitution, which is the ultimate rulebook for the entire country. And on the other side, you have the fundamental rights that are guaranteed to every single citizen. Think of it this way. Can the players in a game just decide to vote to change the most essential rules that are there to make sure the game is fair for everybody? That was the explosive question right at the center of all this.
And this big, kind of abstract conflict, well, it didn't stay abstract for very long. In 1967, it all just boiled over and came to a head in a case that would echo through India's legal history for decades. I.C. Golaknath versus the State of Punjab. The stage was officially set for a massive constitutional showdown.
So the key question that landed in front of the Supreme Court was this, and it sounds kind of simple, but it's incredibly deep. Were there parts of the Constitution, specifically the part guaranteeing our fundamental rights, that Parliament just couldn't touch? Were these rights so sacred, so fundamental, that they were completely off limits to the whole amendment process? I mean, literally everything hinged on how they would answer this one question.
What happened next was just pure legal drama. The decision was unbelievably close. It all came down to a single vote. And that one vote was about to completely redefine the entire balance of power between the citizen and the state in India.
And when I say razor thin, I mean it. The final verdict was 6 judges to 5. Just think about that. The fate of India's most basic rights was literally hanging in the balance, and it was all decided by the opinion of just one single judge. You really can't overstate the tension and just how massive a decision this close was.
So here it is. This is the powerful conclusion they reached. The majority of judges declared that a constitutional amendment is a law, and because it's a law, it's subject to the rule that says you cannot take away or water down the fundamental rights of citizens. This was a complete bombshell. It was the first time the court had ever put such a hard, clear limit on Parliament's power.
Now, to really get how they reached this conclusion, we gotta look at 2 key articles in the Constitution. First up is Article 368. For a long time, Parliament basically believed this article gave them the keys to the kingdom, the absolute power to change anything they wanted. But the court said, nope, not so fast. They interpreted it as just a how-to guide. It explains the procedure for making an amendment, but it doesn't grant a blank check for unlimited power.
And then you've got Article 13 too. This is the real protector of our rights. It's super explicit. It says the government cannot make any law that takes away or infringes on fundamental rights. The court basically saw this as a giant, glowing do not touch sign that was placed right over the chapter on fundamental rights. This was the ultimate shield for the citizen. So, when you lay it all out, the court's logic was actually beautifully simple. Okay, step 1. Article 368 is just about the procedure. It doesn't give unlimited power. Step 2. They made the huge declaration that a constitutional amendment is a law. And that leads to the final, game-changing step. If an amendment is a law, then according to Article 13.2, it cannot violate that big do not touch sign on fundamental rights. Boom. The logic was airtight and the implications were absolutely enormous.
All right, so you might be thinking, why are we still talking about a case from all the way back in 1967? Well, it's because its legacy is huge. It completely reshaped the entire conversation about power and rights in India for decades, and we're still feeling its effects today.
And if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. For the very first time, the Supreme Court drew a line in the sand. It looked straight at the elected parliament and said, your power has limits. The ability to rewrite the nation's fundamental laws was not absolute, especially not when it came to the core rights of the people.
So what did all this mean in the real world? Well, first off, the verdicts put a hard stop on Parliament's power to mess with fundamental rights. It put these rights, your rights, on a higher pedestal, saying they were supreme over the government's lawmaking power. It also overturned a previous major ruling which showed that the court was willing to change its mind and evolve. And maybe most importantly, it kicked off a decades-long tug-of-war between Parliament and the judiciary over who truly has the final say in India's democracy.
And all of that leaves us with this really profound question, one that's still fiercely debated today.
In a democracy, what's the ultimate safeguard for a citizen's rights? Is it the will of the majority, the people we elect to parliament? Or is it the permanent, unchangeable word of the law, protected by the courts? The Golaknath case definitely didn't end that debate, but it sure did frame it for generations to come.